So yeah, he's high-fived and hugged Medina, jumped on the ski, and I've just like screamed, like probably my favorite photo, yeah, like screamed at Owen to kind of turn around as he's putting off, and he just turns around, holds his board up and claims.
Matty Dunbar, thanks for joining the podcast. How are you, mate?
Hey, mate, going good. Thanks for having us.
Unreal. Hey, but this is one of the reasons I really wanted to start this podcast. I don't know if you've seen any of the episodes, but it's just to really dive into, I guess, the behind the scenes of the photographers. And you're one of those guys for me that I've seen on social media, as you do with with a lot of photographers, and I've kind of seen, a few of your, I guess you see everyone's highlights, and see you've been doing some work with the WSL, and I've seen the Undone film that you did, and I'd love to chat to you about all of that stuff. But I'm just super interested in, I guess, how people, got to where they are in the first place. So maybe if you could just start with giving us a bit of background about yourself, where you're from, and then maybe if you can kind of lead it into your path into photography in the first place and how it all started.
Sure, mate. Yeah, well, I'm on in Northern Beaches of Sydney.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. My granddad was heaps into photography. It's funny, me and my cousin both ended up. He films a lot of drifting, like cars and shit.
Oh yeah.
So he frosts on the car route, and then I was a surfer or a bodyboarder, and then started frothing on that. So I went into surf photography. So it's kind of funny. Both kind of stemmed from my granddad, having his camera and all his gear around on family holidays, and we'd both take turns at poaching his lenses and whatnot.
Nice.
So so anyway, like I was a bit of a late bloomer with surfing too. Going into high school, did some some TAFE Photoshop courses while I was in school. And at the time they ran the Women's World Tour event in DY, which is near my house. I called up the media manager at the time, and this wouldn't work in this day and age, but kind of got lucky that someone else was sick or whatever, and I was like, look, I'm just keen to learn as much as I can if I can come around and watch you or whatever. And my arm was in a cast too, so it wasn't much of a help, but just got on the phone to the media manager. He kind of said, yeah, why not come down and have a look. Stoked that you've done that Photoshop course. You can probably teach us a thing or two with Photoshop, which worked out. So that was kind of the leg up. Went there, kind of shot a bit that first day, and then kind of was hooked from there. Just the appeal of I think they had the big white Canon 500mm. Remember just going, holy shit, how's this thing? And just everything was amazing through it, and just the angles and the backdrops you can get with a long lens versus what you can with I guess when the lenses you start out with as a Grom. So that kind of got me hooked, and then kind of finished school, and then slowly did a couple more events each year, kind of just starting off with the Aussie legs, and then kind of just hung in there. I actually won a Coastal Watch photo comp, and went over to Pipe.
Oh wow.
The Pipe Masters, so that was pretty cool. So at that point still didn't really have much gear. I just had like the odd job, and I was actually an extra in like Home and Away and shit. And then I won that award, and I was like, shit, I'd love to get a housing. And then like a couple of weeks before I went over, I was like featured in an ad, like some Harvey Norman's thing or whatever. And that, like when you get featured, you get like a bonus payment. So I was just like, holy shit, there's my housing. Got a housing, went straight over there, which is probably not the best way to go about it in Hawaii. You should definitely spend some time in the water first. But I was just frothing, kind of got over there, got hooked, and then continued kind of on that path, kind of almost doing it kind of part-time for the next 5 years, going to Pipe, doing bells, doing snapper and whatnot. And then slowly as I got a little bit older, I kind of progressed and had the contacts, and did some trips and got to where we are now.
That's unreal, man. There's a ton to unpack from that. So the very first thing, I know you kind of threw in there like that might not work right now, and maybe that's in the surfing world, but I do love how that story started with you just saying, hey, like I just reached out and just wanted to find out, because I think there probably still is a lot of elements of just photography anyway for people that are watching or listening that are wanting to become photographers or into it. Just that whole concept of just reaching out in so many different realms is the thing that's going to open doors a lot of the time. for sure. So that's like super cool. That's how it started. Yeah. And so did you say you won that trip to Pipe? Was that because you won that competition?
Yeah. So just won the competition. It was like, I don't think it was like part photo, part like you had to write something.
Yep.
And I was just like a frother at the time, talking about, going on a camping trip with the boys and, scoring and blah, blah, blah. Just,
yeah.
They ate that up and gave us a ticket to Hawaii. So that was pretty sick.
So how was that experience? Like when you first got there and you've bought this housing and you're like going over there all like wide eyed and stuff, like how did that even go? Like, getting in the water for the first time, or like, there'd obviously be a lot of like locals and that kind of stuff over there that you're dealing with. So.
Oh yeah, I was very nervous. Like, luckily I got the housing, like, a couple of weeks just before I left. So it was like a quick turnaround. I kind of just swam heats at home, kind of started to get it dialed, but still was not really there. It's kind of lucky. Lucky and not lucky, but I kind of landed just at the end of the Pipe Masters. Like it just kind of tapered down the swell. So it wasn't that massive. So kind of got to witness it. I think Kieran Perot won that year. And then, just the week after that, the swell was quite small. So it was pretty good for me to kind of get a feeling for it, shooting a fair bit at the beach park there and coming around. But and then, there was definitely a bigger day where you kind of get humbled straight away, just absolute kook, just at Pipe, like there's a pretty crazy sweep, like just across the shore. And to kind of get out, you have to walk way up the beach, because then you're going to kind of get swept up and then you kind of whatever. Anyway, so I just like ended up out in no man's land. First time, I'm like, shit, okay. And then, like I got out and then kind of went back out there. It's probably like, 6 foot maybe. I still had like a long lens on. I wasn't going to go fisheye or swim in front of anyone or anything like that. I just wanted to suss it out, like just kind of go into it slowly. And even sitting at the absolute back of the line, I still remember like an older photographer like kicking his fins at me, like splashing me. Like I'm nowhere near his, like, pass behind him. He was just like, intimidate me. And I was like, you know what? I just looked around. I was freaking out at first. I was like, what have I done? And I was like, you know what? I've done nothing wrong. And I just kind of stood there. And one of the older guys kind of backs me up. I was like, mate, I don't know what you're blowing up at. But it's I guess a lot of those guys are kind of moved on now, but it's still pretty gnarly. And I think, no matter what ability, you still got to respect the hierarchy, no matter where you're at. So I had absolutely no intent of like bombing anyone. I just kind of wanted to slowly get a feeling for it. But it was like straight away, like slapped into space. So.
And then you mentioned that you start going over there then more regularly or something. Was that just? Was that just on your own, sort of, you were just traveling over there to kind of get used to it, or was that with some kind of work?
I kind of just looked up to Jolie and all those guys and I guess it's not as much of a thing anymore, but, the Hawaiian season where, had the Triple Crown and into the Pipe Masters. So kind of just, put myself in Hawaii around the Pipe Masters for like 4 or 5 years, do like a 2-week stint. Like covering my costs, a couple of jobs here, like some years better than others. I was just pretty much frothing and more or less, a bit of a holiday, but just trying to get my foot in the door still. But towards the end there, I got a couple of good gigs and whatnot.
So you were like, during that time there, you're going over yourself, but you were like sending your work out or something, or doing something to try and get noticed?
Just like I was just hustling, like I think it was like Coaster Watch, Swellnet, the Inertia, kind of, because I think that was also like then versus now, there was also a shitload more of the senior photogs who kind of everyone was on staff. So a lot of the bigger major brands and websites were all kind of covered. So I kind of was just, trying and pick the other niches that might not be tapped yet. So Shot Coaster Watch, Swellnet, even some other smaller mags around the world, and then some little brand stuff. Like as I said, it just kind of kept evolving from every year. I kind of got a bit better and got better shots and whatnot. So
that's cool. And no, I love it. I love the story, because it's just like, it sounds like a real genuine like hustle story, just sort of putting yourself out there and just going after it. It's really cool. So you said you started off surfing, bodyboarding was there. Like before you were photographing, was there like any times when you're sort of out surfing, bodyboarding, you started to think about, like, did you see waves in a certain way? Was photography something that was sort of in the back of your mind when you were doing it?
Yeah, I was kind of a bit of a nerd when I was younger, like got into bodyboarding a little bit later, and yeah, like kind of had a point and shoot camera at the same time. And then yeah, like then for a birthday or something, I got like a housing and a shitty point and shoot camera that, then I just just started taking turns with mates, like shooting each other as you do.
Yeah.
And then yeah, once you get a couple of shots, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then you got that kind of, that keeps you rolling into the next one. You buy a slightly better camera. And keep going on, and then I was hooked. So
yeah, that's awesome. So then what was your path? I mean, you sort of mentioned it, how you kind of reached out, but your path into, I guess, your WSL work, where now I'm assuming you're on staff, you're traveling around, you're kind of like, more like in there. So from that beginning, when you were starting to shoot, was that just kind of, you said maybe you were helping out to edit some photos or something, helping them out with Photoshop? Like, how did that progress to where you are now?
Yeah, so like it kind of just, like I guess there wasn't as much, like that was still when it was the ASP, wasn't as much funding behind them, and they were running on a short string. So like yeah, they'd have me shooting. I did do like, there was like a couple of QSs in Australia, and then the CTs where they always needed a hand, and then it kind of slowly progressed from there.
And are they paid gigs in that early day, or are they?
Yeah. It wasn't like amazing rates or anything.
But but still,
there was always kind of paid, and then a common expenses paid. And then then I had like a shot one year. Someone pulled out of Rio or something, so I went over and did that, and then I kind of had like a hiatus where I didn't do as much WSL ASP stuff for a couple of years. Kind of just was doing my own thing. Like went over to Hawaii that next year and kind of pitched doing a digital magazine kind of thing, like covering the Hawaiian season. So that kind of got picked up by Swellnet and Rip Curl and a couple of brands and stuff.
Cool.
So kind of went off doing a bit of that stuff, and then kind of as I was getting back into it, probably another big highlight was we did a Red Bull trip to the wilderness in New Zealand.
Was that the Chasing the Shot one?
Yeah. So that was incredible. Got to go with a bunch of close mates and a bunch of surfers I've been shooting with from a young age, like Geordie Lawler, Jackson Coffey, and Cooper Chapman. So all those Northern Beaches boys. So it was kind of cool to kind of experience. Like I with my career, I kind of just missed the staff magazine kind of era where doing all the top dogs getting to all these crazy trips and stuff. So that was kind of my experience of that was, oh shit, Red Bull are paying us, and paying for helicopters and stuff to shoot and swim and stuff around there. And my mate Steve Wall came over and shot Vision. That was a dream trip. But I didn't really get to do as many of those. I guess I always kind of focused on competitions. Like I love like just real raw moments and the access and the drama involved with comps. And to be honest, like that I might have grown out of that by now, but I just, brushing shoulders with Kelly and Parker, and Mick, and Taj and stuff like that that kept me rolling for a fair few years, just frothing and then kind of where we are now. I kind of like I peaked kind of 2019 just before COVID. We did the Laura film. I did a fair few CTs that year, some other little trips. And then as COVID kind of came, a lot of things kind of went backwards.
So did you just do the Aussie events then that season?
Did Chopu, Bali, the Aussie legs. And then they had a bunch of events in Taiwan as well. It was always pretty tricky to get on those overseas gigs because they have local guys there. And it's more of a factor now after COVID. Awesome. No, it's amazing, man. So for someone who's kind of like
listening to this, they're sort of fascinated by this, because at the end of the day, a WSL or a pro surf tour photographer is like a pretty, not a lot of people have done it. It's a pretty select gig that people would kind of be interested in. So I guess in its most recent form now, I guess that there's so much more media and like fast media and that kind of stuff. Like what does a day look like for you, like on an event day when it's on and you're shooting? Like how does that can you describe kind of what a day's like now?
For sure. Yeah. So in recent times, we now have a remote editor. I'm actually working as remote editor for Bell's now. So I'm at home just kind of cruising, and then there's two photographers there, and they'll send their selects through to me. I'll do the back end and whatnot. And like you're saying, how there's a lot of requests for images across social media, brands, also online. It's all really quick stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty intense job on that side. But before that, we'd shoot for maybe we'd go on like a 2-3 hour rotation. Someone does action, someone does lifestyle, then you come in and edit, upload. And it was a lot more hectic before the remote editor. So you're kind of doing it all, especially like when you're in the water or something, you come in out of your wetsuit, you're pretty much, you're chowing down while your cards are uploading, and then kind of send out your best shots, and then kind of go, shit, all right, you gotta go get out because Kelly's just about to hit the water again or something, and whatnot. So yeah, now we moved on, and now there's a remote editor at each event and 2 photographers at each event. So yeah, it makes it a little bit easier where more or less every moment's kind of covered. There's at least one person there, or in most times kind of 2 people covering them. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's a grind. Like normally by the end of the Aussie leg, after doing like 4 or 5 events, you're a bit of a shell of a human after just that much time on the road. It's it's pretty draining, but it's very rewarding. Like I love like I was saying, like capturing all those real moments, and the access we get is we're pretty fortunate to have kind of be there in the where you need to capture everything that goes down. So but like it's you're out in the ski in WA or something, you're out there for 3 hours or something, you're running up the stairs, you're uploading, and then you're swapping to your lifestyle and you're running around doing that, and then 3 hours later you're on the long lens shooting main break and whatnot. So it's pretty crazy. The highlights probably, like, definitely was always for me the finals day when the chair shot at the end of the final. That's always my favorite. Like it's quite hard to jostle to be in the right spot. But that's the winning shot always. Like that's used for all the press, and then if it's a world title year or something, then that goes on posters and stuff like that. So like that's pretty, it's 5 minutes before and everyone's kind of standing around waiting, trying to see where the surfer's going to come in on the shore. And sometimes they come in on the other end of the beach, and so you're literally sprinting, like borderline pushing over little kids and stuff to kind of get back in the spot. And then once you're in the spot and they kind of smile at you or claim to you or something, then it's pretty epic.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Because that sounds more like the I guess the photo journalism kind of like paparazzi style, like part of it kind of thing that you have to, because when you're in that situation, you are, I guess, competing with like maybe lots of other people with cameras, as opposed to if you're the guy on the back of a ski out in the water, you're probably just the guy that's in the spot. But that's fascinating. So that's really intriguing, so that you kind of get different roles throughout the day. I was going to ask that, like so there'd be kind of a bit of a brief equally to capture like surfing action as well as sort of the emotion and the sort of behind the telling the story kind of part as well.
Now there's a lot of demands, or just across the board from essentially got to have at least, like if you're shooting action, you got to have at least 2 action shots of every surfer in every heat kind of thing. And then lifestyle wise, you need, like, especially at the start of events, so social media and the news outlets have a shot of everyone. You kind of need to cover everyone, so you're literally sprinting around the event site kind of thing. And then as you get used to the event, you kind of figure out, all right, so old mate's coach is kind of likes to camp at the bottom of the stairs there. So that's where his surfer's going to be just before their heat.
Yeah.
Someone's always late. So you got to be ready for that. Like, so yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And you mentioned the, like obviously the shot at the end, the chair at the beach shot, but what about the moments when you're in the water, you're the guy like in the water shooting, and it might be like a final or just sort of a really emotional heat or something like that? Like those moments, I imagine like the energy out there has got to be pretty insane to be sort of almost, you know, you're right next to it. You're part of the action happening.
100%. It's always hard to, sometimes when you're lucky, when it's your home event or something, you can almost kind of choose what you want to do. But like, it's hard. Yeah. Equally. Yeah, exactly. When you're in the water, like say at Bells and it's the finals and there's, 20,000 people on the beach and up in the stands, like hooting, and it's just you and Hell's Bells playing over the speakers and then the two surfers, like it is very special.
Yeah.
But last year I was really unfortunate and I bloody got COVID the first day of the event window. So I kind of missed like 90% of the event.
Yeah.
And then I came back and there was like 6 heats left to run or something like that. Crazy.
Yeah.
But I was, and I felt like shit, like I was so tired, so run down, whatever. But I was like, screw this. I've missed the whole event. I'm swimming out there. Like I was puffing and puffing and, coughing and all that shit out there. But I was just like, no, I'm not missing this. And like last year, that was Philippe who won. And that's always nerve-wracking, those last couple of minutes, the last 5 minutes of an event, especially at Bells where it's a long playing field. You got to kind of roll the dice and pick your position, and you got to be there before the buzzer goes. And sometimes the surfer gets a wave just at the end, and so that happened last year with Tyler. So Tyler kind of caught a wave just at the end, just as I was next to her. She catches a wave and then she emotes and kind of, but I'm nowhere to, like I can't swim that far, or I don't know, so I've just missed it. So it's like super frustrating when that happens. But there's also another photographer on the beach and whatever covering that.
Someone on the team's going to get it, but
when you get it right and when you're right there in the moment, like probably my favorite moment I've ever shot would be Owen Wright at in Chopu. I just took the gamble and was in the housing. I had that
over under shot
housing, swam out, and that was Medina and Owen. They were kind of battling out to and fro the lead. Like you'd kind of almost thought Medina had it and it kind of switched and Owen was just ruling. So but just to be me with them too, with the mountains in the background and the boats around, just jostling, getting those shots, that was like so special. And Owen just kind of real raw emotion there. He started like, crying, tearing up, just kind of realizing what he'd just done. Like,
is that photo? You've got that photo. It's like a kind of split, like over undershot.
And then also like, it's so nerve wracking in that moment to kind of, dunk the camera, kind of get a heart over under. And that was always the plan with that sequence. I was like, what other sport in the world can you be this close to a athlete and have this surrounding and also have like crystal clear water? It just so happened that it was overcast and whatnot. So you don't really get the dramatic feel of the mountains because they're kind of lost in the mist and the clouds, which was unfortunate, but the moments happened nonetheless. And then, he's high-fived and hugged Medina, jumped on the ski, and I've just like screamed, like probably my favorite photo, like screamed at Owen to kind of turn around as he's putting off, and he just turns around, holds his board up and claims. And so I got a photo of him with that. And then, so that happens. And then I'm just like, frantic, like they go off on the ski. I'm frantically swimming as fast as I can to kind of get back to over where they go to the boats. I've got jet skis and stuff coming in left, right, and center. They're trying to get the photo as well. I'm just like literally just like getting shit banged into me. I was like, I'm not moving. Like, I don't care. And then like managed to weasel my way in and got underneath them. And when his wife met on another ski and kind of they had him over there, kind of he was crying in her lap and cheering and stuff. So you just got to really fight for your spot. Like it's just you got to be everywhere, and it's no,
that's amazing. Are they like when you're shooting in that situation, are they like WSL photos or are they your photos? Like is that your so they're not your ownership, like if you're
so we signed some pretty gnarly contracts these days, so they're just as a sporting league, and it's happening around the world as well, like
for sure.
It's not just WSL, every sporting league kind of owns the owns the right. So down the track, they can kind of pull out images, left, right, and center, and especially right now when Owen's just retiring. So I've already seen those shots kind of come out a couple of times.
Cool.
But I can't really make business of those or anything.
Are you shooting, because I guess it's like you mentioned how busy and hectic it is. Are you still shooting on lay days?
It depends. Not really. Lay days are kind of when you get to cruise, especially like if you're in WA or something, you're at the wineries and hanging out. But yeah, sometimes there's some other commitments you got to do, like shoots. Like we did some tourism. Yeah, I mean WA is pretty good. Like you go over and there'll be a couple of surfers will jump on a bus and go to all the wineries. Get like the royal treatment.
Yep.
Or we got super lucky, and when Rottnest was on, we went on a fishing charter with Owen Wright and all the guys, and that was just that was pretty cool. But most part the lay days, you're kind of just doing your own thing and recouping, because it is like you do have to watch your energy, because at the end of like 2 to 3 months, you're absolutely fried.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So when you were first getting into it and starting to go to events, you mentioned like when you first got your housing, you kind of went and jumped in at pipe. But I guess when you're not like shooting competitions, you can choose the conditions you go out in. Was there ever like some moments when you first started shooting at events and then you've turned up and maybe it's a bit bigger or crazier than you've expected it to be, and it's like, well, you know, we're working, so we've got to go and do it? Or were you sort of comfortable enough in the water by that stage?
Yeah, like I'm just trying to think of where that might have happened. Like you kind of, you got a job to do, you kind of focus on that, you kind of just roll with the punches. I don't think, like, would never consider myself like a hell man. Like I'm not going to be under the lip fucking 12 foot chopu or whatever, fisheye kind of thing. But
or are they times maybe when they don't send you out? Like say at that Portugal event the other day, there was that one day when it was just basically a crazy big like shore break or something. Like are photographers in the water at that point, or is there sometimes when they're like, it's just going to be too difficult?
Well, that's where all the commitments kind of come in. You got to kind of make a call, because whenever you shoot water, like 90% of the time, the shots are kind of better. You can get lifestyle paddle pass as well as action shots, which is always pretty handy. But yeah, it just depends on the conditions. Always I remember at Bell's like years ago, there was a Hellman Quicksilver photographer who kind of just swam out anyway. It was like, pretty solid kind of bombing, and, they kind of just washed up on the rocks and had to get helped and whatever. And it's like, you can't have that happen if you're, and like I was saying, like you got to have a photo of every surfer who surfs, like action wise, whatever. So you can't really take that risk, unfortunately, most of the time. There's the odd occurrence where there is 3 photographers, and maybe you can take that occurrence, but unfortunately at the moment that's not the go. So you just got to kind of play it safe sometimes. Like for example, like 2019 at Bell's, there was a really big day. Like sometimes it's also good to, like, you want to have variety at the end of the event. So like someone comes back in a couple of years, there's sick land stuff, there's lineups, there's portraits of people in the car park, there's portraits in when they're getting ready, running down the stairs. So there's got to be, a variety of shots covering that, like telling the story in everywhere that shit goes on. So water's always the funnest, but it's also you got a job to do and kind of have all the shots. So
for sure,
weighing it up all the time.
Yeah, for sure. So have you, because you've obviously been around it for a little while now, like the professional surfing. So with the advent of so many of the modern things, from social media to probably sponsorship dollars to even things like the Make or Break series now, just there's so much, more. It's such a more professional financial maybe venture than it had been previously. Have you seen many changes during your time in the sport in terms of like having that front row access to surfers, maybe their professionalism or their like training, or just how they might be like around events as opposed to like older days?
Not so much. I mean, the only thing, like, there was back in the day, like when the WSL first took over the ASP, they kind of came in guns blazing, and they put out this rule. It's like if you are on the beach, you shoot any comp photo in our venue, we own everything. So there was a massive blow up, from all the senior photographers, everyone who, like your Jolies and stuff, who have massive image libraries of the history of surfing. And then all of a sudden the WSL can just tap them on the shoulder, go, oh, we want your card, and they came in guns blazing. And that was like, whether that also coincided with Instagram and stuff coming in, and that was the demise of magazines. I think it all kind of happened at once. A lot of people got pissed off and fed up with that, and then kind of, with those limitations, kind of dropped off the back. So I think right now there's a lot less senior photographers about. There's, a handful of staff photographers left in the world. A lot less top level photographer, like top surf photographers left, really. A lot of people moved on. So that's kind of, I don't know, from when I started to where we are now, the only other thing would be probably that my first snapper event was before WSL. There was just crazy parties like every night. Like it was every brand. Like there was just more staff, more brands everywhere. And every given night of like a snapper comp, there'd be like 3 or 4 parties. Didn't matter what was going on. Until now, when it's like there'll be like one thing on a night, and most nights there won't be. Like a lot of less people being paid to be down here and enjoy it. So there's not as much of a full community as such. But yeah, in terms of changes,
what about the surfers themselves that you're like that are on the tour? Like, does it seem like a more, I suppose in those days maybe there was more like partying potentially? Like, have the surfers themselves changed with professionalism?
100%. Yeah. Everyone's a lot more switched on, and everyone's doing, breathing techniques. Everyone's stretching. Everyone's, it's a fine art now, and I don't think there's really anyone left who's kind of just, partying and what like that, because you get found out pretty quick with results, because the guy next to you is like that much fitter than you, or what have you. Like, I guess it's hard to say in that regard, but I mean, you still have your blow ups like Italo and stuff at Bell's last year. There's always some really tight heats. That was pretty crazy, and like knowing they have to shoot that no matter what happens, that's a story. Italo against Jack Robbo, and it was a clutch heat, and they gave the floor to Jack Robbo. He comes like sprinting up the stairs. You got to follow him. He like shouldered the broadcast camera out of the way, like pushed another dude out of the way. And I'm like, all right, well, I just got to be there just to see what happens. I've got to get this shot. So kind of like ran up the stairs, followed him, went into the judges tower, and I'm like, this far away, and it's like, shit, imagine this guy actually goes into a rage. Like, I'm probably the first person who's going to smashed here. So you just kind of keep kind of pick your moments to shoot, and like obviously just read the room. Like, you're not going to just be right in their face, but you've got to kind of but you have like full, like you'll sort of access all areas. You have full reign you have to go and kind of get that stuff. For sure. And it's like, you look back at it's unfortunate, like senior guys like Steve Sherman, like I don't know if you, like, I was chatting with someone the other day about his photo of Andy and Kelly in the kitchen. Do you know that one? Yeah. So it's just like moments like that just stand the test of times, and people still talk about it to these days. So it's like, you got to, if something controversial or some hectic moments like that, you need to be there to, ensure that you get that frame so that it does. So that was like talked about a lot in Make or Break, and that was pretty hectic, but yeah.
And do you feel like when you're sort of going into events, is there pressure on you as a photographer, like in that regard, because you guys have got to get, I guess, a certain amount of moments and stuff? Or
yeah, there's definitely pressure. I mean, after doing it for so long, like I genuinely froth on the pressure. I like kind of clutch moments like that, and it's the drama in those moments that I want to be there for. It's like, shooting weddings, a lot of guys kind of veer away from it. They're like, oh, it's too much pressure and stuff, which is fine. Like there's I don't know, a lot of other guys like can a bit more creative maybe, and kind of like create a moment, light it, whatnot. But whereas my style is definitely a bit more photojournalistic, kind of happening in the moment, capture it the best you can, and don't miss it, you know? So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's fascinating, man. Thanks for taking us through all of that stuff. So I guess just on that point of the style, like shifting away maybe like slightly from the competition stuff. So do you shoot much these days for, I guess, what I'd call like free shooting for your own personal, reasons? And is there any difference between how you would approach, like when you're shooting a competition, have you got certain things in mind versus say you just went on a trip with some guys and you were documenting it? Would you shoot it in a different way, like kind of think more artistically as opposed to photojournalistic? Or
yeah, definitely. Always got to play it safe at the beginning of a trip or a session to kind of have a bank of just safety stuff, like, because brands always need that, like a clean shot of a board, whatever, or like, just kind of, I try and build house. So you kind of, start off maybe land and lifestyle and kind of shoot the shit out of everything, maybe the first day or whatever, jump in the water, do drone, kind of do it all. And then you can kind of, from there, you have a bit of a base, and then you can kind of get a bit more creative. From there. So yeah, I guess in that regard, I do have I do froth on real moments, kind of fly on the wall kind of photography across the board. So yeah, I'll take that same approach on the boat or whatnot. The guys hanging out and stuff, I always want to have a camera with us, and just in case something fun happens or whatever. And
cool. Is this all like work related jobs? Like, do you ever just go out and shoot kind of on spec, just maybe on a trip or whatever, and you're just sort of shooting your own stuff that then maybe you might, submit out or put somewhere? Or is it mainly you're doing jobs?
Well, that's where COVID came in handy. There's a couple of things in my career I wish I'd done more of. I wish I'd always, and a lot of other older guys kind of always told us to do this. I don't know how much people do, but just continue assisting photographers. Like, doesn't matter where you are in your career, but just always being willing to be humbled and to learn. So that's something I kind of like got stuck in my way. WSL, comp stuff, events, kind of just focus on that. And I haven't and this year I've really tried to kind of start to move out from that. So for example, I've been pretty lucky. I literally just got a phone call to go up to Cape York to do a charity trip, shooting some NRL players who have got their footy boots, and they're going out to the Aboriginal communities, and they're, the boots are going to get painted by all of the young kids. The kids gonna show us around and stuff like that. We're gonna go out into country and kind of so this is like just a completely different experience for me, and I'm so excited about it. I'm not even getting paid for this one. It's a charity one.
Awesome.
And I'm definitely open to doing a lot more stuff like this. I'm going to pursue a lot more stuff like this because I'm already excited, already looking at flights and stuff. I got it, that phone call was 45 minutes ago. So
unreal.
Just got to start doing more, just branch out. This is a real trip. The guys involved are very genuine. They're very invested in what they're doing, and it's the shots are going to be used I guess for good and have a purpose. So that's kind of moving from now on with my career and kind of looking for more moments like this. Trips like that. Because up until COVID, I really didn't shoot much personal work. During COVID, Narrabeen was pumping. We had so many sessions around here. We had one of my favorite nights, but there was the bioluminescence blew in.
Remember that?
One of the boys called us at 11:30. I was at my parents' house having dinner or something. Had a couple of wines, and they're like, "Oh, the ocean's blue. The ocean's blue. You need to come out here." So just come back, run back, and jump in the water. Got the housing and shoot until 2 a.m. or something, and just froth out and stuff like that. But I think I do need to. That's something I do need to develop, is a bit more personal work, just for your own development, your own sanity. Kind of, I think that's a flaw in my skill set at the moment. Is I don't know how to describe it, but maybe I guess being more creative with my approach to certain shoots. flying the wall stuff is great, and I feel like I've mastered that.
Mm.
But yeah, being able to come up with a concept for a shoot, a style, look, how you're going to approach that, and come in. So the other night, actually, had a pretty rad opportunity. We're shooting at the wave pool with Slater. But it's at midnight, so it's pretty dark. And some of the he's Slater surfed the wave pool at this is an urban surf.
Urban, yeah, yep.
And so he surfed there before, and a couple of other photographers have shot water and stuff. But I just wanted to try and get something a bit different. So I wish I had done more personal work and kind of test out the lights, but it wasn't the best scenario to kind of try it out for the first time. Like it's so like the setting was Kelly had a bunch of his mates and they took over the pool surfing. It's super dark. I had one of my Godox lights, like a studio light, kind of set up on the wall, and I had someone kind of directing it, moving it up and down based on what setting of waves they have, because they have quite a few settings of the waves, and the wave will break in different spots. So yeah, we set up this light and just tried to, definitely focus on the barrel setting. And obviously Kelly he was just, I don't know how he does it, mate. Like he got like a million waves in an hour, but yeah, just trying something different and getting that light close to the water as possible, having this backlit, real blue, contrasty shots. So yeah, that was pretty cool, and something I want to experiment with a lot more moving forward. But yeah, you always got to kind of create something a little bit different.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And the Undone movie experience, can you tell us a little bit about that? I guess maybe just a quick, what it's about for anyone who doesn't know. They could probably go out and watch it, and then just how that sort of came about.
So that movie, it follows Laura Enovar literally as she progresses as a big wave surfer. So I genuinely, with her experiences, the guys she met on the trip, she learned so much, she progressed so much, and led to where she is now, where she just paddled into the biggest wave that a woman's ever surfed in Hawaii just recently. And so it was very raw doco kind of style. I think I'd kind of met up with Steve, and after that Red Bull trip, we were kind of looking for our next project, the Red Bull trip to Fiordland in New Zealand. So we were kind of looking at that. We're starting with, the idea was to do a feature on big wave, like women's big wave surfing. Because at that time, like still obviously developing, you had, Clea Kenley and stuff overseas, but and Justine DuPont still was starting to get into it, but, it wasn't what it is now. So we kind of got in touch with Laura. Laura's, just came off tour and then had this massive opportunity, and she was really keen to kind of put a project together. So literally we just started. Steve Wall kind of spearheaded that, a million trips down the coast, introduced her to a bunch of local legends down there who kind of taught her how to tow, how to read the waves out there and whatnot. And just had that opportunity to get into some of those waves, because it's pretty daunting as a woman being in those lineups, I mean, apart from the waves being hectic. But I think if a chick genuinely has the skill, the talent, and is genuine, like in those big wave sessions, she'll have opportunity, and the guys will look after her and give her waves and stuff like that. But I think it's between the thought of paddling out to getting out there. I think that stops. Well, up until that point, there were very few women who were. Now, so this was like 2018, I think we started kind of talking about this. The film eventually came out in 2020, just as COVID happened and destroyed our tour. So it was like or maybe even a little bit earlier. Anyway, about a 2.5 year, 3-year journey for all of us to kind of go on the road. And so that was very much a photojournalistic approach I took with stills. So Laura, we drove across the desert over to the right. And just seeing firsthand, Shannon Worrell is a big wave surfer from over there. he owned Shark Eyes, which is like a wetsuit company now that do the best shit and whatever. But he has quite a crazy knowledge of that area, of the ocean, of the surroundings and whatnot, and very savvy on safety. So yeah, he just kind of spoke to her, and how he explained so simply about surfing the right.
Yeah,
it was just baffling. And there was a split second there, you're like, oh, that's not too hard. Like, I can. And you're like,
we should have a crack.
Hang on, but just the way he did that, and you know, he just coached Laura through it, and like the conditions we had for that film, like they're pretty haggard at the right. And Laura in the beginning wasn't too keen, but kind of came around and kind of threw everything at it. So that was kind of cool.
Yep.
And then yeah, but yeah, how Shannon described the ride is just like, you know, essentially, you know, there's maybe 2-3 foot of water that you can kind of surf in. You know, you got kind of, you know, this much.
Yeah.
It's beyond that is just vertical, and below that is just, you know.
Yep.
And just, yeah, you need to watch that film if you haven't seen it. It's quite a raw,
amazing
take.
Yeah.
And women's big wave surfing has come such a long way since that's come out now. So it's kind of cool to see. And cool to kind of have a little impact with that. But yeah, when we finished that movie, went to do the screening. We got one massive screening night in Sydney on the premiere. We, you know, filled up 2 cinemas, and was it like 900 people or something saw the movie that night. And then the week after, COVID happened and just destroyed the whole tour. Like there was talks of almost going to Egypt and stuff like this, like States, like touring it everywhere. And so that was a big dampener. So yeah, like I made my photo book with Vaughan Blakey and Danny Johnson for that, and that was all funded by myself. So that was a huge hit when the tour just all of a sudden just stopped. So yeah, definitely keen to jump on the next one.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And yeah, like I said, everyone should check it out. So what I was fascinated by, like with like movies like that, because I had Andrew Seamark on the podcast who did the Facing Monsters doco as well. And it's like when you're starting something like that, obviously there's a plan in mind, but like you don't know, I guess, what's going to happen, right? Like there's points, like even in that movie where like Laura got injured, and it's like if that happens, like even worse, so that could like sort of delay it. So is it just, are you starting these projects and going, we're just going to go until, you know, like if you have to have delays, that's just part of it and it just takes longer? Or
well, yeah, I mean, that's with the doco style, like those things happened. But there were generally, I guess, chapters in her progression as well. And like moments, but yeah, God, that was frustrating. Yeah. There's like this, we're down the South Coast scouting and shooting a lot of lifestyle stuff, some story stuff. We're down there for like a week or something. And the swell kind of was a bit of a hoax. And then there was another pulse on the way. And yeah, and this trip, we literally, me and Stevie kind of swam out from another beachy, and we're kind of getting ready to, everyone else was then under the jet ski going to get brought out. And we kind of, me and Stevie were like walking up the point, kind of going, shit, where is everyone? You know, what's going on? Like, anyway, get back, and that's in the film where Laura ran over her brother Chris and had to, you know, we had to drive another bloody 5 hours to hospital, and missed out like on a session that night. Also the next morning. So it was a grind, but yeah, that's, you know, there was a good 3 or 4 month period where Laura, Emily, Steve, and me sometimes were working on concepting the film and whatnot. But that, I guess with stuff like that, it does just take a ride its own path when it kind of happens.
For sure. Yeah, it's all part of the story. So is that something now, like, are you in a sort of position, is that a feasible, like, how do I word it? Is that an option for you in the future to come up with either film style ideas or trips like the Red Bull one, or, you know, like sort of arranging some surfers, planning an idea and then pitching that to a brand or someone and saying, hey, we've got this idea, we want to do this. So, do you want to jump on board with it?
Definitely. That project drained all of us, I think. Like, it was put so much into it. And then just at the end to, also financially to take a hit with COVID and everything. So it took quite a while to recover from that, where I kind of had to not only like build up a financial base again, but also, just be a bit safer with choices. But I think I'm just ready now to jump on another project and kind of go harder. I think the trajectory of my career, I've kind of starting to wean away from surfing. I think I'll always do, always dabble in it and maybe just do a couple of events a year, or, if the opportunity comes up or I see a story, I will chase it. But I'm definitely interested in stuff outside of surfing now, and kind of things up, starting with this Cape York trip and more doco work and stuff like that. I'm actually starting to look more into film work now, like video.
That was the next question I had for you. Yeah. Do you do any film stuff?
Yeah, I've always kind of dabbled with SLRs and stuff, but now I've got the Blackmagic, the 6K Pro, which is pretty good value. Starting to learn a bit that way, and kind of work in producing, and kind of starting to work on another project. There was a recent opportunity with Blakey Johnson. He just did surf the world record for
saw that
world's longest surf, and with the purpose of raising money for mental health. And there's his dad had battled with mental health and whatnot, so there's a bit there, and that's definitely a skill I want to learn and acquire, is translating these messages and learning how to communicate them in an engaging way on screen.
Amazing.
So I think there's one thing about just telling story, but actually having impact and confronting people and creating a space where people, especially with mental health and stuff, can kind of feel comforted or relate, or use the film or use the pictures as a springboard or platform to kind of do stuff about it. Hopefully kind of getting more involved with some projects like that. That's kind of where
that's amazing, man. That's so cool. It's a really cool progression through everything that you've done, I guess, from starting out, just sort of hustling away, and then obviously learning the art of how to document emotions through the surf events, and now being able to bring that into to tell bigger stories and important stories. That's a really cool progression. That's awesome. That's unreal.
Definitely.
Thanks each for this, man. Hey, just a couple of little fun ones on the surf stuff to end with. So what would be, you've traveled a fair bit, so what would you say has been your favorite waves to shoot? And then I guess secondly, is there anywhere you haven't shot yet that you'd still love to go?
2019 was just a dream trip. I've been to Tahiti now twice. Last year, it was haggard, torrential rain, the shittest on shore, smallest chop. The worst trip ever for 10 days. But 2019, I just had it all. At that point, the women weren't surfing chopes, so it just meant there was fewer people around. There was less competition time to run. And we just had bluebird days, crystal clear water, easing in 3 to 4 foot surf there, where I just swam with Kelly and all the top guys for days on end. With not that many photographers around or surfers. I got to that year. That's the year that I own one, where the forecast was that good that they literally, it's 4 to 6 foot clean, and they go, look, you know what, tomorrow's going to be 6 to 8, so we're going to call it off for today, which just does not happen anymore. So you're just holy shit, so you just swim until your cameras runs out of battery, or your mate smashes his housing, his port on the reef and floods his housing. That was just all time. So
nice. So it is as good as, because most of the time when I ask this question, if people haven't been there, it's at the top of their list to go to. So it definitely doesn't disappoint when you're there, I'm guessing.
Mate, it's the best place on earth. There is definitely still a hierarchy there shooting, so you just have to also be wary. You can't just swim out there and just go. I was very lucky with that trip, where it was kind of maybe it was just a slower year or less comp, like everyone avoided the place because the comp was on, kind of thing. Like that was a dream scenario. I'm not sure I'll have that same experience. But yeah, I think, yeah, if you get the chance to experience, it's like the, you know, the new, well, you know, if you go to Pipe or Tahiti, like they're two places you'll, you know, crazy experiences at either or, and well worth time.
Yeah. And is there anywhere you haven't been yet that it's kind of would still be on the bucket list?
I mean, I've always wanted to. It's pretty funny. There's like that Simpsons episode where Seymour Skinner sets the house on fire when he's cooking steamed hams for his boss. And he makes a joke about Aurora Borealis. So I remember, like, when I was young, I was like, what the hell is Aurora Borealis? I remember like Googling what that is, and then like seeing the photos and going, holy shit, like the Northern Lights. So the Northern Lights is always, like, since that moment, I was like 12 or 13 or something, since I always wanted to go and shoot that. So a lot more people have kind of done it in recent times. You know, you have the Red Bull guys do it with Mick and Under an Arctic Sky and all that. So that's that would be the next one on the list.
Be an amazing experience. And what about if you could just pick, say, 3 surfers from any, like, you know, any surfers to go on a trip with to photograph? Is it possible for you to pick?
Like that would realistically, I mean, I love women's surfing. Like, I love the style and grace, and sometimes when it's a bit smaller, you can kind of get a bit creative and position yourself and work with the light and everything. So there's that aspect where longboarding or single fins, 20s, I love shooting that stuff, as well as big stuff, slabs and stuff and whatnot, where it's, you know, crazy water. It'd be hard to answer because, like, either or. I don't think so much of a performance-y trip would be my dream trip anymore. But yeah, you'd have to say like a John or you know, an Ando or something. And then on the other side of it, like just you know, Steph would have to be, to do a trip with Steph would be incredible, just style and grace wise, and
nice, man. That's unreal. Well, hey, thank you so much. This has been a really, really cool insight, man. This is like, of the ones I've done so far, this is like really different. So I know people are going to like enjoy it because we haven't spoken to anyone really working in the surf world the way that you are. So thanks so much for being so open and honest about it all and sharing all the insights. And I know people are really going to like this one. So thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having us.
Cheers, man.